Where do we go from here?
Or death, I guess.
Well, that's the problem. They didn't get to it. There was no death, Jeremy. We were all led down a path of failure and a path of heightened expectations. You were here on Friday telling everyone, keep your expectations high. Expect everything expect murder, expect terrible, awful, bloody messes. But really, the answer was staring us in the face the entire time. The location of the pay-per-view. We should have known, Jeremy. We didn't listen.
Yeah, the commission kind of ruined that one, but you knew you were going to run this show in Missouri.
That's true.
Maybe you shouldn't have done an I Quit match in there. Maybe you should have figured that out beforehand. We did mention waterboarding. We did mention drowning. We mentioned a lot of things, so they were bound to hit on something. I still question, and this is where I'm like, you did all these fire teases, and then you knew this match was taking place in Missouri, where you probably couldn't get away with fire. So why are you doing all of these fire teases? That was the disappointing thing for the match about me. And look, yeah, you want to blame the commission, fine, blame the commission, but they knew they were running this show at this venue, at this location, and they still made the decision to do flamethrowers and Molotov cocktails, giving you the impression of like, hey, you're probably going to get some fire in this. And then you got no fire. That was a miss on their part. I don't know if you got to do a pre-tape, whatever you got to do to like get around it. I don't know if you can get around it with a pre-tape in that manner.
Use state lines. You show them that you're on the opposite state line side. Well, we're not in Missouri anymore. We could do it.
But building up to fire here and giving no fire was a miss. And again, they knew when they did all these teases where this show was taking place. So either don't tease it, find a way to do it, or tease something else. I mean, they should have done more water stuff leading up to this show. And that way, when they did the drowning, it would have been like, oh, they're finally paying off all the water teases that they've been doing. Darby should have just dumped water on Moxley. You know, instead of the blood that comes down from the ceiling, it should have just been a bunch of water coming down from the ceiling. But yeah, doing the fire teases, not being able to deliver on the fire. I was like, that's disappointing. That kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's really interesting when we go back and we talk about where should this match be placed on the card. And I know we all talked about it between the three of us, SP3 included, where this match should be. Should it be last on the card? Should it be the world title match? And coming out of the gate, I said it should be this match. It should be the I Quit match. I felt a little vindicated when it was announced as the main event. But also at the same time, you know, SP3 and I were kind of coming to the agreement as well that the world title match, because not only is it the world title match, but because you know what to expect from Hangman when he's given the opportunity, you get a great match out of him. You add in Samosa Joe, and you know you're going to get an even better match. So for us, it was like either one would have been fine. I think the I Quit match being the finish was ultimately the right call. However, I think it would have been the right call in another state because you couldn't give what was teased, like you were saying. You couldn't give up the fire, the Molotov cocktail tease. You couldn't do it. Like they could do the taser, but you can't really do the taser. You should have tased his testicles. I don't know why they didn't tase his balls. But anyway, the point is, Marina just gave him the low blow, and then he tased him in the tummy.
They should have kept going. What are you stopping for? Just keep tasing him.
Not only that, but like you got a taser and you're going to use him in the stomach, man. You better be ready to void your bowels because that's all it's going to do. So it was, again, they were at the mercy of their location, which again, the pushback to that is if you knew, what did you expect to be able to get away with? I am curious about like what were the pitches and what was accepted and what was turned down and what was ultimately agreed upon. Was that enough? So they did the aquarium, they did the drowning, and maybe that was as good as they could get. And I thought that it was different. I think ultimately I liked the match. In a bubble, I liked the story that they were telling. Darby continues to have zero friends. Nobody sticks up for Darby except for the one guy that he worked with. And I thought that was sweet, and we'll get to Sting in a minute. But again, the story of the Death Riders being a cohesive unit, but when the leader is left alone, the leader falls, and that's Moxley. And if the giant story here becomes that they all look at Moxley and say, God, you're a failure. You never took home the title. You lost it all in when it meant the most. You lost when we all got taken out by a baseball bat. Like you are the worst. We shouldn't trust you. You're a cult rider at best. So they're maybe call them the coat riders. But anyway, the point is you could do something now moving forward where the tone is set. Moxley gets ousted. Honestly, I'd probably replace him with Pac. Instead, there's a good use of this match. And I see SP3 saying he thought it was fantastic. And I don't think anyone's saying that it wasn't a good match. I think the overall thesis here is imagine what could have been done had they done it outside of where an athletic commission tells them they can't. And that's the largest pushback. Murder.
Actual murder.
Fire. Like if you're going to tease all this stuff, I think that's what it comes down to. However, from a standpoint of the match and the way it played out and using psychological warfare to an I Quit match, I thought that went a long way. The skewers underneath your fingernails, that stuff, that's terrible. That stuff is worse than any shooting you can think of, because that is a logical thing that could happen to you that would hurt like hell. And when I saw it, I was like, hell no, ain't no way, not watching this. I gotta turn it off right now. And I moved past it. That's a scary idea. They did some logical things. Again, putting your head in an aquarium, people have aquariums. You could put someone in, it's logical, and that's why the match made sense. Stop it. Stop it.
Ow.
So
it does hurt.
It does. But that's the thing. The fact that these were things that in real life look like they would hurt. Fire is like one of those things where like 1 in 2 people, not 1 in 2, like 1 in 200 people experience like a burn to that degree. You know what I mean? Of a Molotov cocktail. Maybe that number is even too high. So instead, they did a really good job of using the psychological torture and the realistic torture to get it over. So for that, I appreciate it. And then Sting's like, I hate fish. So I'm going to show up and I'm going to break down this aquarium because, fuck fish. Chat does not like what you just did.
Oh, bless my wife who is, watches this on a delay because the YouTube is not caught up to what's actually happening in real life. So she sees me get the skewers and it's just, you better not, baby, put the damn skewers down. And then of course I'm sticking the skewer underneath my fingernail. It doesn't feel good, folks. So that was uncomfortable. Like I don't get super uncomfortable watching wrestling. Some of the stuff Moxley and Darby do, I do get a little uncomfortable. But I was like, anything to do, what always, like Jackass, they do like a ton of dumb shit. Like it's Jackass, you know what I mean? The most uncomfortable like bit sketch that they do, it's the paper cut between like the webbings of their fingers and stuff. That's where I'm like, nope, absolutely not. I'll watch you snort wasabi and get kicked by horses and shit all day. That's funny. But doing like paper cuts on your nope. Can't watch that. Can't watch that at all. So yeah, like skewers and fingernails and stuff. Like no, that was tough.
And we've seen that in wrestling too. We've seen wrestlers do the paper cuts between the fingers because how much it sucks. Even like Lego becoming a thing that people use in death matches as like a bit of a joke because it's relatable. When it's relatable, it's good, and that's why again this I Quit match. The reason people got upset is for everything we talked about. It was a lot to not be given the excess that people may have wanted out of it, but it was still a really good match. It was just different.
I know some people, idiots, are upset about like the finish, and it's like, oh, how could Moxley give up so quickly? I get the complaint. At the same time, pay attention. Because this is who Moxley is. Joel mentioned it, and I know a lot of people have mentioned it. When the going gets tough for him, this particular character of Jon Moxley, we're not talking about Jon Moxley when he first came into the company and he would crawl through broken glass to fight out of holds and everything. We're talking about this character of Jon Moxley. When someone punches him in the face and he doesn't have his friends around, he gives up. He did it against Hangman. We all watched the Hangman match. He quickly tapped out when he got choked. Here, Scorpion Deathlock taps out. He says, I quit immediately. Now, should he maybe have fought back a little bit more? Because I saw this man continue to wrestle with a spike, a bed of spikes hanging out of his back. And I was like, he didn't give up there. So could he have maybe fought that a little bit more, at least taken a little bit more? I know he got hit with a bat. I know he got hit with the death drop and everything. Like, he took some damage there. But it did feel like maybe you could have done a little bit more to this man. But, and from the story they are telling, I understood why he tapped out so quickly. It did feel a little bit flat, like watching it live. It's like, oh, that was kind of it. Again, because for once in my life when it came to wrestling, I set expectations high. And so a regular Scorpion Deathlock did not live up. And this is a me problem, I can fully admit. It did not live up to my high expectation of, hey, let's actually kill this guy. The Scorpion Deathlock isn't going to... I mean, it hurts. Like, we've all been put in a Scorpion Deathlock when we're kids or have it done to somebody. It definitely hurts. But it's not something that's like, yeah, that's the end of the match there. I still think they should have ran him up the flagpole and hung him in that way. That should have been the finish. But I get it. I enjoyed the match overall. It does suck that there were the limitations of Missouri to where they couldn't do certain things that they should have been able to do. And you mentioned it, Ryan's mentioned it. At some point, the Death Riders are going to look at this guy and be like, what are you? What are you to us right now? Because if you ain't the champion and we helped you hold that title the entire time anyway, you ain't living up to your word around here. What have you really changed around here? And some people have stepped up, got elevated and everything. And by stepped up, I mean somebody like Darby who stepped up to the Death Riders, like Hangman who stepped up to the Death Riders. It's like, you haven't lived up to what you've been saying. You said you weren't going to quit. You said you were going to eradicate the future of wrestling here. A Scorpion Deathlock? That's what you gave up to? At some point, these turns are going to happen. And you know why they need to happen? Because I put this out there after the Ops turned. You got the Ops, you got the Death Riders, you got the Don Callis family. That's 3 heavy heel stables, and you don't need that many heavy heel stables. Like, there's not quite a hierarchy there as far as, oh, this group, like, I'll use WWE for an example. You knew the Bloodline was the top heel stable, and you knew Judgment Day was underneath that. With these 3, it's like, well, Moxley's kind of in the title picture. Moxley's always at the top of the card, so that feels like the top group. Right now, Samoa Joe just challenged for the title, and they're going after the title, so that feels like a top group. And then the Don Callis family has 82 members, so anybody can feel like they're elevated with things. Okada's got titles. Fletcher's got a title. Takeshi's got a title, the main title from another company, but he's always there. It's like all 3 of these groups feel like they can be the top group, which isn't necessarily an issue, but it is an issue when you have 3 dominant heel groups wherein they kind of all do the same thing as far as attacking babyfaces, getting the heat on the babyfaces. It's like, do we really need 3 top groups like this? Especially when the babyface side, you've got good babyfaces, but you don't really have people like a group to stand up to them. Sorry, conglomeration. You guys, I like the conglomeration, but they're just a bunch of dudes.
But they're doing Friends now. They're doing the Friends.
It's very funny. I like it.
They're gonna, clearly that means they're going on a main event run, right?
I like it, but yeah, it's not there. You know who like needs to get in this picture is Eddie Kingston. He needs to step into the Death Rider stuff and be like.
I thought you meant Eddie Kingston to join the conglomeration.
No,
That's what I want to see.
I mean, that'd be very funny.
Be very funny to watch him be like,
Funny. No.
why are you guys all happy all the time? What is this garbage?
But Eddie Kingston needs to get into this Death Rider picture here and start knocking some heads around out there.